Hello, Nation. Today we're having a very unique Edelman report with my good friend and colleague, Jeremy Pettis. We're going to be debating. We're going to debate the use of a new class of medications being considered for people with type 1 diabetes. Ready for this? SGLT inhibitors, Invokana, Jardiance, Farxiga, and one not approved yet, Zynquista. A couple of these are approved in Europe. And people are taking them for type 2 diabetes like crazy. But we know that they may help people with type 1, and there's a lot of talk on the pros and cons.
Yeah, so these drugs, two of them have been approved in Europe, and one now is working to get approved here in the United States. So this is a very real current topic where a lot of people with type 1 diabetes are taking these. They do have some downsides, some side effects.
See, I won the debate already. You
so
see that?
We're going to have a real debate, and this is going to be a real debate. We're going to do it once. If we mess up, we just got to get through it. But we want to be clear that the people that you're going to see in the debate are actors, which may not reflect their true opinions. So I'm going to be pro telling the truth about how these drugs are good, and Steve will be lying the whole time about coming up with reasons not to take them.
Yeah, and remember, it's a debate, and debates aren't nice, and we haven't shared our notes. We're going to have a rebuttal. Let's go.
All right. May the best man win, Steve. Shake my hand.
Oh, well, sorry, I was looking at the camera.
All right, Nation. So again, I'm Jeremy Pettis, and I'm going to be debating the positive side of these medications. And let me ask you this question. If you could design the ideal medication for type 1 diabetes, what are some things that you would want it to do? Well, you'd want it to improve your blood sugars, right? Lower your A1C, of course. You'd want maybe some more time in range, in that good range, 70 to 180, of course. You'd want less hypoglycemia. Okay, those are all pretty kind of typical things. But if you started really kind of going for it, what else would you want? Well, what if something could help me lose weight? That'd be nice. What if it could lower my blood pressure? All right. What if it could make me just feel better, be a happier person with type 1 diabetes? Okay. Now, what if you really shot for the moon? What would you want it to do? Well, what if it could protect your heart, give you less cardiovascular disease, protect your kidneys? Well, guess what? The SGLT2 inhibitor medications have been proven to do all of these things. So let's go through them one by one. So let's start with A1C. These medications in type 1 diabetes have been shown to reduce A1C by about 0.4% or so. Now, my opponent, Steve, who doesn't know what he's talking about, is going to try to minimize that and say it's not a big deal. But we know that if you lower your A1C by that much over the long term, you can reduce your risk of microvascular complications by about 15%. So less eye problems, less kidney problems, less nerve problems. And this 0.4% is the same improvement that we get from these sophisticated artificial pancreas systems. So that is a big deal. All right, what about more time in range? Of course, we all want more time in range. These drugs have been proven in everybody to improve time in range by about 2.5 hours a day. That means less correction boluses, less times you're low, all those kinds of things. So let's talk about hypoglycemia. I hate getting low. It's annoying, but it's also a deadly situation. These drugs have been shown to improve blood sugars and reduce the amount of time that you're low. We don't have any medications that I can think about that really do that. You have better blood sugars, less hypoglycemia, more time in range, better control overall. Okay, what about these extra things? Weight. And we still think of type 1s as these little kids running around, they're nice and skinny and thin, but guess what? We all grow up and we can all gain weight, and we all want to lose a few pounds. And these drugs have been proven to help people lose weight by about 5 or 6 pounds or so. So you're improving your blood sugars and you're losing weight. What about blood pressure? Well, about 3 to 4 millimeters of mercury that you can actually improve your blood pressure. Most people with type 1 diabetes end up having hypertension, so this is a nice effect for sure. And what about quality of life? Well, they've also shown that people on these medications tend to have a better quality of life, they're happier, and why not? You're taking a medication that you can eat a little bit worse, but still lose weight, have better blood sugars, more time in range. Give me a break. It's exactly what we would want. We also know from the type 2s that people that take these medications have less cardiovascular disease, less renal disease, and this hasn't been proven in type 1s, but most experts agree that this probably would apply to people with type 1 diabetes also. So my opponent is going to get up here and make a big deal about some of the side effects of the medications. But I want you to keep in mind that everything I just said has been proven in the wide range of people with type 1 diabetes, on shots, on pumps, on CGMs, newly diagnosed. They've had type 1 for a long time. Steve's going to pick out the few people that had some small kind of problems that we know about and we can mitigate. So in conclusion, we now have drugs that are available that are already being used in Europe. We have a lot of people here in the United States that are using these drugs to do things that we've been begging a medication to do forever. Make us happier, better blood sugar control, lose some weight, protect our heart, protect our kidney. Isn't it worth fighting for these drugs to get approved here in the United States and mitigating some of the BS side effects that Dr. Edelman's going to come up here and talk to you about now? So thank you.
All right, here we go. You just heard from my good ex-friend and colleague, Jeremy Pettis. Yeah, I'll give it to him. A1C drops a huge 0.3%. I can do that by just taking my bolus 20 minutes before I eat. And yeah, time and range, he told you almost 3 hours. That's the highest dose that has the highest side effects. But you look at the dose that the FDA will probably approve, less than 2 hours. Less than 2 hours. Now, I'll give him that. Let's talk about the side effects. First one, super common in women and uncircumcised male. I'm glad I'm Jewish. Genital mycotic infections. I'm not a female, I've never had a yeast infection, but they are a pain. And you gotta carry around fluconazole or some type of antifungal so you can treat yourself early. Now, what about the serious side effect? He blew it off like it was nothing. Diabetic ketoacidosis. If you've had it, you get nausea, vomiting, you can't hold anything down, blood sugar goes through the roof, you go to the ER, they draw your blood, they put you in the intensive care unit, you're there for 3 or 4 days, you miss out on work, school, friends, and of course they're poking 10,000 holes in your arm. If you had it, it's not fun. It happens approximately twice as much as people with type 1 not on this class of SGLT inhibitors. Now, the scary thing about it is, it's not just DKA. It's what we call euglycemic DKA. Your blood sugar could be completely normal, and you could be going into basically a fatal side effect. You could die from DKA, and people do every year. Okay, he blew that off like it was nothing. Now, what about things that you can or cannot do? Well, you cannot be on a ketogenic diet. You can't drink excessive alcohol, and that's a big problem for Dr. Pettis. You can't do strenuous exercise, and if you have an infection or surgery, you've got to stop your medication, otherwise it puts you at higher risk. Now they say, oh, we can do risk mitigation, no problem. Buy a ketone meter. Oh, I carry around with these all the time. And, or ketone strips, which they say are not as accurate. Just spend $100 on eBay. And how many people have a ketone meter at home? Now, you're gonna have to read up on this because risk mitigation calls education. This is a book called Risk Mitigation for DKA for People with Type 1. I'll read that on the airplane. And don't forget, you can't drink alcohol. That's why I drank this whole thing yesterday, so I can go on my SGLT2 tomorrow. And you got to carry bandages for a serious groin infection called Fournier's. It's on the bottom of your screen. Look it up, type it in Google Images, and be careful. Have a bag because you might throw up when you see it. It's horrible. Just go look at the safety records of these drugs. So, remember folks, when you are taking a medication, you've got to look at the side effects. You have to look at the risk-benefit ratio. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention, get a suitcase because you're going to need it. Carry all the stuff you need just because you're on one of these medications. Yeah, you get a little bit of reduction in your A1C, a little bit in time and range. You get a reduction in your insulin needs, so what? That doesn't really do much for me, or will it do much for you? So, that's it.
Okay, there you have it, folks. As predicted, Dr. Edelman focused on these extremely rare side effects. So let's go through them real quick. So DKA. In the studies, they happen in about 4% of patients with type 1 diabetes in these trials. In the background, in the United States, the risk of DKA is about, 7% or so. So already higher than people that were shown in this study. And I will say that I've had patients, or actually I can think of one patient that went into DKA on these medications and came back to see me begging to go back on this medication. Then it just speaks to the power, the effect of the better blood sugars, the weight loss, all these positive effects that these people are getting, that even suffering the most severe side effect, they wanted to go back on this medication. What about not drinking alcohol? That's just not true. Steve just made that up. What about no strenuous exercise? Again, he just made that up. Never heard that before. Stopping before surgery? Guess what? We do that with most medications anyways. All drugs have side effects, and we know about them. We kind of, get used to them. And what about these things with Fournier's gangrene? That happened with one medication, and it's actually the medication that we're not looking to use in type 1 diabetes, and it happened in type 2s, and it actually in larger trials hasn't even shown up. So I didn't know Steve was bringing all these props. I don't have props because I don't need them. You don't need a suitcase. You don't need all this crap that Dr. Edelman was just up here, carrying. So just remember, in everybody, better control, weight loss, less hypoglycemia. You're a better person, better wife, better friend, all these things on these medications. Thank you.
All right, Nation. This risk of DKA, obviously we have some differences, but in the main clinical trial, it was about 4 to 5%, he's right, but in the group that did not take the medication, it was about 1%. Why? Because they did education and risk mitigation before it started. So when the playing field's equal, it's about 4% versus 1% in the clinical trial. Yeah, it doesn't happen that often, but when it happens to you, guess what? It's way too many times. Now, Jeremy did ramble off that it helps for cardiovascular disease, renal disease. That's all in type 2 diabetes. It's never been proven for type 1. So false promises, that with all his ex-wives as well. And you know what? He talked about weight loss, blood pressure. That's not the main issue in type 1 diabetes. It's really trying to get your A1C less than 7, improve your time in range, without hypoglycemia. And yeah, you do get these incremental benefits, but what I'm telling you is, since I'm playing the con side, there's a ton of risk factors. You didn't even mention the mycotic infections, which is extremely common in women. I still got my itch. And also occurs in men as well. So I think, he talks about be a better person, it makes you, happy. That is voodoo. And he takes supplements as well. So that says it all right there. And lastly, he never heard about can't drink alcohol and excessive exercise, ketogenic diet. It's clearly in the European guidelines for people with type 1 who would take this class of medications. And 2 of them are approved in Europe, and they're going through an extensive risk mitigation. So nice try, Jeremy. Well, Nation, there you have it. 2 actors debating a topic with extreme views for the sake of the debate. But having type 1 myself, knowing this class of medications extremely well, all the incremental benefits put together really is quite helpful for people with type 1 diabetes. Use it in many of my patients, and you can't buy it back from them. But I did win the debate.
Well, I think we agree that we want these drugs to get approved and used in the right people safely. So basically, I love you. I just want you to know that. But you know that I totally just kicked your butt.
No, I don't think so.
No, I mean, you can cut the crap. It's like, hey, I won.
No, you didn't. Fuck you.